In the quiet outskirts of Paris, surrounded by skeletal trees and a withering riverbank, stood a forgotten bridge, Sulon Bridge. The name wasn't listed on any tourist map, and few locals dared speak of it out loud. It had been condemned since the 1970s, after a series of unexplained accidents. Most simply avoided it, muttering warnings of cursed ground and spirits that cried in the dark. But 5 urban explorers saw it differently. Lucien, the leader of the group, ran a semi-popular YouTube channel about haunted places. He was charismatic, ambitious, and obsessed with finding stories that blurred the line between folklore and truth. Joining him were Chloe, the psychic sensitive with a background in spirit photography; Maxime, the tech expert and drone operator; Tarek, skeptical but loyal, armed with dry humor; Isla, quiet and curious, with a hidden connection to the site. Lucien stood before the camera at golden hour, facing the camera with the bridge looming behind him. "Tonight," he said dramatically, "we uncover the truth behind the cries beneath Sulon Bridge. Legend says a baby's wail echoes through these ruins every midnight. No one's made it till sunrise. We'll be the first." The plan was simple. Camp beneath the bridge overnight, record everything, and stream clips in real time. At first it felt like any other adventure. They set up infrared cameras, EVP recorders, and flashlights around the crumbling support beams. But as the sun dipped below the hills and the shadows stretched, the air grew unnaturally cold. It began with subtle shifts. The shadows cast by their campfire seemed to stretch longer than they should. Chloe paused mid-conversation, her eyes scanning the woods. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. The others listened. A rustling in the trees. Then nothing. "Probably just an animal," Tarek muttered, checking the thermal scope. But an hour later, Tarek stiffened, his expression no longer mocking. "Guys, someone's crying." They turned toward the western support pillar. A faint, high-pitched sobbing drifted on the wind. Maxime boosted the gain on the directional mic. The sound was clearer, heartbreaking, like a newborn's cry echoing across an empty field. They all froze. "Is this a prank?" Lucien asked, looking at Isla. She shook her head, pale. Chloe walked toward the noise. Her EMF detector spiked violently, the lights flashing red. "It's not human," she said. It's like it's stitched together from memory." Maxime's thermal camera flickered, capturing a small, human-like figure crawling near the edge of the river. When he panned back a second later, it was gone. At 12:03 a.m., the cries grew louder, richer, like something wet and close was sobbing just beneath their feet. The group moved as one toward the noise, finding a rusted door embedded in the earth near the base of the bridge. It was sealed with chains and bore a disturbing chalk symbol, a crude drawing of an infant with hollow eyes. Isla froze. "I've seen that symbol before. In my grandfather's workshop." Chloe backed away. "We shouldn't go down there." But Lucien, driven by obsession, insisted. With a sickening screech, Maxime cut the chains. A gust of air blew out their lantern, and beneath the cry of the wind, they heard something else. A whisper. "One of you must stay." The rusted door creaked open into a narrow, spiraling stairwell. It was far colder inside, like stepping into the forgotten breath of a crypt. Lucien led the descent, flashlight trembling in his grip. The others followed reluctantly, one by one. The staircase seemed older than the bridge above, carved directly into the stone. Symbols lined the walls, more crude infants, but also strange trees with hollow roots and mouths. Chloe trailed her hand against the stone. "These weren't drawn," she murmured. "They were burned in, like someone tried to carve memory into the walls." At the bottom, they found themselves in a small chamber. A stagnant pool rested in the center, reflecting their lights like a black mirror. The baby's cry echoed louder here, deeper now, distorted, as if it reverberated from the water itself. Suddenly, Isla collapsed, clutching her ears. "Stop it! Make it stop!" she screamed. Maxime knelt by her, whispering. Tarek looked around. "Where's Lucien?" Lucien had wandered toward a second tunnel alone. "Lucian!" Tarek called. No response. They chased after him, the cry growing into a cacophony of whispers. The air thickened. The walls began to weep moisture. Shapes moved in the dark, small shadows darting just beyond reach. They found Lucian standing before a wide door made of blackened wood, etched across its surface. "Do not open until the child is fed." He smiled, vacant, entranced. "It's calling me," he whispered. Chloe reached for him. "We have to leave now." But the door creaked open on its own. Inside was not a room, but a vision. A flickering nursery from the 1800s. Blood-stained wallpaper, a cradle in the center, rocking gently, though no one touched it. Inside, swaddled in rotted cloth, was the source of the sound. Not a child. Something pretending to be one. Its head turned toward them, eyes like black tunnels, mouth a cavernous maw. The cry shifted into a scream, not of pain, but hunger. And one by one, the lights began to die. Panic erupted. Maxime dropped his camera and ran, dragging Isla behind him. Chloe clutched her head, overwhelmed by psychic feedback. Tarek lunged for Lucian, who now stood frozen, whispering in a tongue none of them recognized. The cradle creature rose slowly, unraveling its form into something spider-like. Its limbs were too long, too many. It cried again, and blood dripped from the ceiling. Tarek tackled Lucian, breaking the trance. "We're leaving!" They turned, sprinting down the corridor. But the path had changed. The nursery melted away, revealing a hallway that hadn't been there before. The walls pulsed, as though alive. "Don't look at the symbols!" Chloe screamed. "They imprint if you look too long." One by one they covered their eyes, stumbling forward. But Lucian paused again. A whisper was calling him. "Your name was chosen. You were born to return." Suddenly the group reached a circular chamber lined with mirrors. The crying was behind them, but they were now trapped with their own reflections, each one subtly wrong. In one mirror, Tarek was missing his eyes. In another, Chloe's mouth was stitched shut. Lucian stood before his own mirror. His reflection grinned. It stepped forward, and Lucian didn't move. There was a sickening crunch, a burst of darkness, and then the real Lucian was gone. The mirror version turned, smiling. "Let's go," it said in Lucian's voice. No one noticed the difference. Only Isla sensed something wrong. As they climbed a new set of stairs that shouldn't have existed, the air grew warmer, but heavier. The walls now resembled flesh, pink, veined, twitching occasionally. Isla gripped Chloe's hand. "That's not Lucian." Chloe turned to confront him. Too late. Lucian opened his mouth, and the baby's cry emerged, deeper now, thunderous. The sound shook the tunnel, and Maxime fell to the floor, blood trickling from his ears. The imposter grinned, its eyes going black. "You brought it enough fear," it hissed. "Now, it can be born." The tunnel collapsed behind them. A grotesque shriek came from the darkness ahead, something massive shifting. Chloe shouted, "There's no way out! We have to bind it!" She reached into her bag, pulled a sachet of bone ash and salt, and drew a circle as Isla whispered an old family chant. The creature, now fully emerged, a horrific fusion of baby and predator, lunged toward them but hit the circle's edge like a glass wall. Tarek threw the last of their equipment at it, including Lucian's original camera, still recording. "Take this to the surface," Chloe said to Isla. "Someone needs to know. Someone must end it." The circle glowed brighter as Chloe and Tarek chanted. The monster screamed again, imploding into itself, sucking the chamber down with it. Isla ran. She emerged alone from the tunnel hours later, covered in ash, clutching the camera. No one believed her, except the viewers who watched Lucian's final stream. At the end of the video, at exactly 59 minutes and 59 seconds, just before the feed cuts to black, there's a frame showing Lucian's face, only it's not him. And behind him, the sound of a newborn crying. I never believed in folklore, not ghosts, not monsters, Not that weird stuff you read in Reddit threads at 2 a.m. I'm just not that type of person. I like things I can explain. Science, facts, logic. But what happened to me in the woods that summer? Well, let's just say logic packed up and left by the second night. It all started when I was 16, visiting my cousins down in Alabama. My parents needed a break, or maybe I did. Either way, they shipped me off for the summer to hang out with my cousin Travis and his friends. Honestly, I was looking forward to it. Travis and I were tight as kids, and I figured it'd be a chill break from school and city life. Travis had this group, 4 guys and a girl, who were basically inseparable. You know the type. Kids who grew up together in the same small town, who knew every inch of the surrounding forest like it was their backyard. When I got there, they welcomed me in like I was one of their own. We played video games, rode dirt bikes, and talked big like we were grown. Then one night, Travis says, "We're going camping this weekend. Out past Red Hollow. You in?" Now, Red Hollow wasn't on any map I could find. That should have been my first red flag. I asked him where it was, and he just grinned and said, "You'll see." Everyone else was excited, so I played along. I figured it'd be like every camping trip. Marshmallows, ghost stories, someone getting poison ivy. I was wrong. Really wrong. The day we left, the sky was overcast. The kind of gray that feels heavy, like it's pressing down on you. We packed up Travis's dad's truck and took 2 dirt bikes to cut across an old trail nobody but them seemed to know about. By late afternoon, we'd made it to a clearing deep in the woods, miles from the nearest road. The spot was actually kind of beautiful. Trees arched overhead like a cathedral, leaves whispering in the breeze. The ground was soft with moss and pine needles, and a shallow creek ran just down the slope. We set up 2 tents, gathered firewood, and cracked open some sodas. The group joked around like usual, but there was this tension I couldn't name, something under the laughter. It got weirder when this old man showed up. He came hobbling down the trail, hunched and grizzled like he was built from bark and bone. We all fell silent. He didn't look at any of us, just stood there at the edge of the clearing. "Y'all ain't from round here," he said, eyes fixed on the trees behind us. Travis stepped forward. "We're just camping. Been here before." The old man didn't blink, didn't move, just muttered something under his breath and walked away the same way he came. We stood there in awkward silence for a while before Travis forced a laugh. "Old man Crowley. Harmless. He says that to everyone. I wasn't so sure." That night, as we sat around the fire telling dumb jokes and eating burnt hot dogs, I thought about what the old man said, or more specifically, how he said it. He looked past us, like there was something behind us in the woods. Something he knew about. Something he'd seen. I didn't sleep well that night. Not just because of the hard ground or Travis's snoring. It was the forest. It was too quiet, like the trees were holding their breath. And every so often, I'd hear something crack in the distance. Something walking. Not a deer. Heavier. Slower. Closer. The next morning, everything felt normal. Or at least, normal enough. Sunlight cut through the trees in golden shafts, birds chirped, and the guys were already arguing about who ate the last Pop-Tart. I almost laughed at myself for how spooked I'd been the night before. Maybe it really was just nerves. New place, unfamiliar woods, and that creepy old man. We spent the day hiking trails the group claimed they'd blazed years ago, although some of them looked like no one had stepped through in decades. It was beautiful, in a wild sort of way, untouched, ancient, like the forest had a memory of something it wasn't ready to forget. Travis, his best friend Jace, and a guy named Tyler led the way. The rest of us, me, Sarah, and Mikey, followed with our packs. At one point, Sarah fell behind to take pictures. She had one of those vintage film cameras and a weird habit of photographing tree bark. "Some of these look like faces," she said, showing me the camera. "Like, real faces. Like someone's trapped in there." I laughed, but my skin crawled. The bark did look weird. Knots shaped like mouths, eyes, even a nose if you stared long enough. I chalked it up to pareidolia, the brain's way of seeing patterns that weren't there. Still, I stuck a little closer to her after that. By the time we made it back to camp, it was nearly dark. We lit the fire again and sat around like the night before. Stories, laughter, and a little too much soda. Travis pulled out a beat-up Bluetooth speaker and played some old rock songs, and for a moment, I forgot how far from civilization we really were. Then Jace said, "Let's play the name game." "What's that?" I asked. "It's stupid," Sarah said quickly. "Come on," Travis smirked. "We used to do this when we were kids. Everyone goes around and says their name one by one. The rule is, don't say it out of order or the game resets." "That's it?" I raised an eyebrow. "You'll see," Mikey grinned. So we played. Travis went first. Travis, then Jace. Jace. Sarah. Tyler. Mikey. Then me. Eli. The fire crackled. Everyone looked at me. Silence. "That's 6, I said, shrugging. "Wait," Sarah said, her voice small. "That's 7 names." We all paused, looked around the circle, counted again. Travis, Jace, Sarah, Tyler, Mikey, me. That's 6. But Sarah was right. 7 names had been spoken. Jace chuckled nervously. Probably just someone said a name twice, but nobody laughed with him. "Let's just do it again," Travis said. So we did. Each of us said our names, carefully this time. Travis, Jace, Sarah, Tyler, Mikey, Eli. Again, 6 people, 6 names. But there was a feeling, a sliver of doubt, like someone had been missed, or added. The fire popped, sending a flurry of sparks into the night. Tyler got up to grab more firewood, disappearing into the dark trees. We sat in silence for a while, the kind that feels thick and unnatural. Then we heard it. Twigs snapping. Movement, fast, heavy, not Tyler. We all stood up, peering into the dark, calling his name. But no answer. Then he came stumbling back into the clearing, looking pale. "Dude," Travis laughed nervously. "You good?" Tyler didn't answer. Just sat down quietly by the fire and stared into the flames. Sarah leaned over to me and whispered, "Did he take his hoodie off?" I blinked. "What?" "He was wearing that red hoodie all day. Now it's gone." I looked. She was right. Tyler was now wearing a dark jacket I hadn't seen before. I called it coincidence. Maybe he brought a second layer. Maybe we were overreacting. But later that night, as we all turned in, I heard something outside the tent. It was a voice, soft, mimicking mine. "Eli. Eli." I froze, held my breath. It sounded like me. Not just the name, the voice, my tone, my exact inflection. "Eli." I didn't move, didn't breathe. And then, silence. The next morning, I didn't mention the voice. Maybe I should have. But I didn't want to be that guy. The out-of-towner who gets spooked by the woods. Still, something about it stuck in my mind like a splinter. It hadn't been an echo. It hadn't been a dream. That voice, it knew my name. It was my name. Spoken exactly the way I would have said it. Tyler didn't say much that morning either. He moved slower than usual, like he was tired or hungover. When Jace tossed him a granola bar, he caught it with the wrong hand. Tyler was a die-hard lefty. Travis had mentioned it the day before when we were skipping rocks. But that morning, he used his right without even thinking. "Hey, you good?" I asked him quietly. He just nodded, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. As we packed up for another hike, the group was set on reaching this abandoned fire tower on a ridge a few miles out. Sarah came over and pulled me aside. "You heard it too, didn't you?" I stiffened. "Heard what?" "Something. Last night. Something walking around. Something talking." I looked at her. She wasn't messing around. Her hands were trembling a little. "It said my name," she whispered. "Like me. Like I was outside the tent." She wasn't the type to play games. I saw her face, pale in the morning light. She was scared. And now, so was I. The hike to the tower was brutal. Steep hills, muddy trails, and that creeping sensation that we were being watched. Every now and then, Mikey or Jace would joke to lighten the mood, but it didn't help. There was a tension in the air, like the forest was listening. When we finally reached the ridge, we found the fire tower had collapsed years ago, just a rotted skeleton of metal and wood. But something was off. There were footprints, fresh ones, not ours. These were big, barefoot, 5 toes but too long, too wide. Like something, had been here earlier, and they circled the tower. Jace tried to brush it off. Probably just a bear, he said. With feet like that? Sarah hissed. That night, back at camp, no one wanted to talk about it. We ate in silence. Tyler sat apart from the group, not touching his food, barely blinking. At some point, Travis grabbed a stick and started poking at the fire. "Let's do the name game again." Everyone groaned. "Seriously?" I said. "After what happened last time?" "Maybe we messed it up," Jace added. "Maybe we just need to reset it." So we did. Reluctantly, Travis, Jace, Sarah, Tyler, Mikey, Eli. 6 names. But once again, something felt wrong. Like someone else had spoken. Like the air had shifted. Then Mikey stood up, slowly, turned in a slow circle, eyes scanning the trees. "What?" Travis asked. "There's someone in the woods." Silence. I saw it. Just now. A face. Staring back. Travis grabbed a flashlight and pointed it into the dark. Trees. Just trees. But when the beam swept to the left, we all saw it. A figure, just for a second. Tall, thin, crouched unnaturally low. Then it was gone, vanished into the brush. Everyone jumped to their feet. We shouted, waved lights, called out. No response. Mikey started to panic. It looked like me, but its mouth was wrong, like it was too wide. We huddled by the fire the rest of the night. No one dared go to the tents. Then around 2 a.m., Tyler stood up, walked toward the woods. "Bathroom," he mumbled. But something about his voice chilled me. It was flat, like a recording. Travis moved to stop him. "Dude, just go behind the tent." "No," Tyler said again. "Bathroom." Same tone, same inflection, like a copy. And then, out of the trees, another Tyler stumbled into the clearing, covered in dirt, scraped, bleeding. "Guys," he said, his voice shaking. "I've been trying to get back for hours." We all turned to the first Tyler, the one standing at the edge of the firelight. And he just smiled, not like Tyler. Too wide, too still. Then he ran, right into the woods. We didn't sleep at all that night. By morning, none of us were the same. Tyler, the real Tyler, was still shaken. His arms were scraped, shirt torn, and he kept muttering about losing the trail and hearing someone behind him the whole time. We asked what happened, how he ended up separated from us. He said he'd gone to grab firewood before sunset and just got turned around. But that didn't make sense. He'd been with us. We'd seen him. Or someone who looked like him. Nobody questioned him out loud, but I could tell from everyone's glances that the same thought was eating at all of us. If the fake Tyler was with us, who else might not be real? We tried to act normal, packed up the camp. No one wanted to admit we were scared. Scared to talk, scared to be alone, scared to look anyone in the eye for too long. Sarah refused to separate from me or Travis. Jace kept checking over his shoulder every few seconds. And Mikey? Mikey wasn't talking at all. That afternoon we tried to hike back to the truck. We never found the trail. It was like the forest had shifted. Paths we were sure of yesterday were gone. We hiked in circles for hours. The sun crawled across the sky, but it felt wrong, like it was moving faster than it should. By late afternoon, we came back to the same creek we'd crossed earlier, even though we'd walked miles in the opposite direction. Jace cursed and threw his backpack. "This doesn't make sense. I know where we're going." "We're being watched," Sarah whispered. And I felt it too. That low-grade hum under your skin. Like you're not alone. Like someone's just out of sight. Listening. Studying. That night, we didn't build a fire. We didn't talk. We all sat in a tight circle, our backs to each other, shining our flashlights out into the trees. And then the counting began. It was Mikey who noticed it first. He was whispering to himself, counting, over and over. 6, 6, 6, 6. Travis asked him what was wrong. Mikey looked up with hollow eyes. "There's 7 shadows." Everyone froze. "What do you mean?" I asked. Mikey pointed toward the ground, where our flashlights stretched long, jagged shadows through the forest. 6 of us, but 7 shadows. And just like that, the panic set in. Sarah began crying quietly, hands over her mouth. Jace stood up and spun in a circle, flashlight shaking in his grip. Travis pulled a knife from his pack, just a small camping knife, but still, and started shouting into the trees. "We see you. We know you're there." Something laughed in the dark. Not loud, not close, but just enough to freeze the blood in my veins. Then Jace said something that made my stomach drop. "Where's the second tent?" We turned. He was right. There were 3 tents now, not 2. One of them, unfamiliar. Same make, same color. But it hadn't been there yesterday. No one remembered setting it up. And yet, there it was. Jace stepped toward it. Travis grabbed his arm. "Don't." "What if someone's in there?" he whispered. "What if it's one of us?" And that was the moment we broke. We no longer trusted each other. Every glance became suspicious, every movement a threat. Tyler refused to speak. Sarah wouldn't leave my side. Travis paced with his knife drawn. Mikey just stared at the ground, muttering numbers under his breath. And the worst part? I started wondering if I was real. I caught my reflection in the creek earlier that day. Something about it looked off. Like the smile didn't reach my eyes. Like it was watching me. And that night, while trying to stay awake, I heard my voice again. "Eli, come here." Not from the trees, not from outside the camp, from the unfamiliar tent. I didn't move, not toward the tent, not toward the voice. I just sat there, hands clutching my knees, trying not to breathe too loud. "Eli," it whispered again. "You're tired. Come lie down." It was me. My voice, calm, friendly. Exactly the way I talk to myself when I'm trying to relax. Then it said something that stopped my heart cold. "The others are scared of you now. They think you're the one." The zipper of the strange tent moved slightly. That's when Travis finally snapped. He marched toward the tent, knife gripped tight, and in one motion unzipped the flap and pulled it open. Empty. At least, at first. Then we saw what was inside. Clothes, duplicates of ours. A second copy of Sarah's jacket. A baseball cap identical to Mikey's. A half-eaten energy bar. Same brand I had in my pack, with a bite mark that looked exactly like mine. And in the corner, a small, jagged handprint in the dirt. Not child-sized, not quite human. Tyler turned and threw up. Then we heard it. Movement. Fast. All around us. In the brush. In the trees. Dozens of feet. Twigs snapping in every direction. The woods were full. Jace screamed, shining his flashlight wildly. For a split second we saw one of them. A figure standing too tall, its arms dangling low, wearing Travis's face. Blank expression. Dead eyes. And a mouth that slowly stretched into a grin too wide for its head. "Run!" someone yelled. I don't even know who. We bolted. Sarah grabbed my hand. We ran through trees and thorns and darkness, branches slashing at our faces. Behind us, we heard them mimicking, not chasing, not yelling, just calling. Mikey, Sarah, Eli, Eli, Eli. We ran for what felt like hours. I lost track of the others. The trees blurred. The shadows danced. Eventually, Sarah and I found an old hunting shack, half collapsed, roof caving in, but shelter nonetheless. We barricaded ourselves inside, barely breathing, shaking from head to toe. And then Sarah turned to me and said, "Eli, what's your middle name?" "What? What's your middle name?" I blinked. "Why does that?" Because the thing that looked like Jace didn't know his. Forgot it. and Jace never forgets anything about himself. I stared at her, and for a horrifying second, I couldn't remember. My mind went blank. Panic rose in my chest. I knew it. I should know it. But the name was just gone. Eli? Sarah's voice shook. I started. She backed away. And then, from outside the shack, I heard a scream. Travis! Sarah! Get out of there! That's not Eli! She looked between me and the door. Frozen. I begged her. I'm me. I swear. I don't know what's happening, but I'm me. Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't open the door. She didn't come near me. She just sat in the corner, whispering her own name over and over. Travis never made it to us. His voice vanished into the forest, cut off mid-scream. By morning, Sarah was gone. Just gone. No footprints, no sounds, no sign of struggle, and I was alone. Later that day, I found the truck, just sitting there at the trailhead, keys inside, fuel tank full. I drove straight out of those woods, didn't stop until I hit a gas station 2 towns over. Called the cops. Search teams went out. They didn't find anything. No tents, no clothes, no fire pit, not even footprints. Just me. That was 2 years ago. People say I'm lucky to be alive. The police think the others got lost and never made it out. But they're wrong. Because sometimes, I hear my voice outside my window at night, calling softly, Eli, and every so often, when I look in the mirror, I see a smile that doesn't quite belong to me. They never found the others. Travis, Sarah, Jace, Mikey, Tyler. Officially, they're missing, presumed dead. The town put up flyers, held a candlelight vigil. Travis's mom still posts on his Facebook page sometimes, like he might see it. But I know better. They didn't die out there. They disappeared, or worse, they were replaced. I spent months afterward trying to understand what happened. I dug through folklore forums, read about mimic spirits, shapeshifters, legends from places even Google Maps doesn't cover. The closest I ever came was an old Cherokee story about a creature they called a Yazi, a shadow that walks among men, copying them until even the mirror can't tell the difference. But even that felt incomplete. Because it wasn't just copying us. It was studying us, learning us. And it got better at it. That thing wore our faces, our voices, our habits. And sometimes, in quiet moments, I think about that night. The counting game. The 7th name, the 3rd tent. The way Tyler caught a granola bar with the wrong hand. The blank smile on a second version of myself. The forest didn't just hold something evil. It invited it in. It let it learn how to walk among us. And I think it followed me out. I still live in the city now. Apartment with bright lights, locks on every window. A roommate who doesn't ask too many questions. I tell myself it's over. But sometimes, I find things moved. Shoes in the wrong place. Clothes I don't remember owning. A mug with a left-handed grip. And just last week, I woke up to my roommate standing in my bedroom doorway. He was asleep. Or at least, he looked asleep, but he was smiling. Too wide. Too still. I asked him what he was doing. He didn't answer. Just turned and walked back into the dark hallway. The next morning he claimed not to remember it, but now I keep a mirror in every room. Because if I ever look into one, and see a smile that doesn't move when mine does, I'll know. It's not over. And it never was.